All right, Mr. Trump, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, so give me your impressions of the Democratic convention so far and the whole Debbie Wasserman-Schultz scandal.
Well, I think that she was disastrous. I think it's turned out that she was a disaster. I've been saying that for a long time, and not a good person, and got caught and said a lot of bad things, and it was very sad. And I think as far as the convention, it's not played out yet. We're going to have to see what happens with the Bernie Sanders. But I think Bernie got very tired. He wants to go home. He wants to go to sleep. He wants to go to bed. He wants to get out. So it looks like he got tired, and probably the people will sort of go home. And I think we're going to get a lot of the Sanders people because of my views on trade, because we're being so ripped off on trade and jobs. And I think we're going to do very well with the Bernie Sanders people.
Michelle Obama went after you on the first night without ever invoking your name. What did you think about a first lady making a political speech like that?
Well, I'm not that surprised. Look, she did her thing, and I thought it was fine. I thought her speech was okay. I thought it was pretty good. But I really didn't pay much attention to it.
Now, this DNC hacking scandal, which they're trying to tie to the Russians, what's your impression of this notion that the Russians are trying to help you get elected?
Well, I don't know anything about it. I can tell you, I think if I came up with that, they'd say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. It's ridiculous. I mean, I have nothing to do with Russia. I don't have any jobs in Russia. I'm all over the world, but we're not involved in Russia. But it was just, I watched actually one of the people from the campaign of Hillary Clinton, who I call Crooked Hillary, and he was saying, he talked about Russia. He said, you know, it was Trump. It was Trump. It was almost like John Lovitz on The Liar, if you remember that from Saturday Night Live. It was Trump. It's so ridiculous, but they have to say something. They might as well blame me.
The theory is, and I want you to just address it head on, because I think that's the way you like to do things,
Sure.
Is that somehow you have, you know, your companies are beholden to Russian investment, that Russian dollars have flown into your businesses, and that therefore somehow Putin could control you by threatening your business ventures.
I haven't heard that at all. I mean, I haven't heard that, but I have nothing to do with Russia. Nothing to do. I never met Putin. Nothing to do with Russia whatsoever.
So you have no loans from Russian banks or investors?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
You said before...
This was just put out there by Clinton because they figured it's a good soundbite. I mean, the fact is, she's the one involved with Russia because they have uranium because of her when she was Secretary of State. I mean, that was a big, big deal. So they just came up with this concept. So, okay.
You said you talk about Hillary being Crooked Hillary. There was the chance of lock her up at your convention.
Yeah,
I know you've said you thought that she should be in prison. I'm wondering if you're elected president, would you instruct your Justice Department to reopen the investigation into Hillary Clinton?
Well, I don't want to comment on that right now. But, you know, what she did was very serious stuff. But I just don't think I should be commenting on that.
But it's a possibility?
I don't want to comment on it. I really don't want to talk about it. It was very serious stuff.
We're taping this on Tuesday, and obviously tonight at the Democratic National Convention, the mothers of a number of young men who have died either through violence or police-involved shootings are speaking. Sabrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner's mother, you know, are speaking. What do you think about the fact that they're taking the stage and are so aligned against you?
Well, I don't know that they're aligned against me. I haven't heard them speak. But I'm a person who believes in law and order. I believe in protecting our police and being with our police. I also want our police to be extremely careful and vigilant. They have to be very, very careful, and they have to do what's right. But we are a country of laws, and we have to protect our police. I don't know that they're against me. I don't know why they'd be against me. I think I'm a perfectly nice person. So, you know, you're telling me they're against me. Maybe they are, but I don't know why they would be.
You spoke at your convention, your speech, which was very powerful. You said, when I'm president, I will work to ensure that all our kids are treated equally and protected equally.
Right.
And every action I take, I will ask myself, does this make the life better for young Americans in Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, and Ferguson?
Right.
Do you think, I mean, listening to that, I got the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, you tend to agree that there is some sort of economic or racial disparity within the African American community as it relates to the criminal justice system.
The African American community has not been treated well by President Obama. You look at the joblessness. I mean, jobs, 48 and 58% unemployment among African American youth. They have not been treated well. They have not been treated appropriately. I will do a much better job. 100%. And by the way, in 4 years, I'll win their vote like you've never seen before.
What about within the criminal justice system? Do you believe that there's a racial disparity in the criminal justice system?
I would have to look at it. I would have to study it. Lots of people have opinions both ways, but I would certainly study it.
President Obama has commuted the sentences of thousands of individuals on nonviolent drug offenses because he believes the system is often rigged against minorities. Is that something that you would continue to do, you think, do commutations for nonviolent drug offenders?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about by drug offenses, but we have to be, again, we're a nation of law, so it really depends, but certainly in certain instances it would be absolutely fine.
Your speech also, you said, we are going to lift the restrictions on the production of American energy.
Right.
Do you think Florida should engage in fracking, and should we be doing offshore oil drilling
Well,
here?
it's not so much Florida, but there are places in this country that are going to fracking, and they become very wealthy places. The employment is through the roof, and making a lot of money and lowering taxes. So it would really depend environmentally. If you have a fragile area, maybe not, but a lot of areas aren't so fragile. There are some states that have become very wealthy by doing this, and they've taken care of a lot of good things and a lot of good people that live in those states, and a lot of lower taxes. So it would really depend on the area that you're talking about.
Same thing with offshore oil drilling?
Yeah, same thing with offshore.
All right. Another thing that you said at your speech, talking about crime. You said the crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon, and I mean very soon, come to an end. Beginning January 20th, safety will be restored.
Right.
How can you do that?
Well, you can do it by being very strong, very vigilant. It's about law and order. We have to stop people from committing crime. Now, you're always going to have something happen, but look, our numbers are out of control. You look at our policemen shootings. You look at places like Washington, D.C. and Baltimore and other inner cities. The crime is through the roof. You look at Chicago, where they've killed thousands and thousands of people over a short period of time. It's like a war zone. We will get those areas under control.
But you can bring it to an end?
We're going to bring crime as we know it today to an end.
I see.
What's happening, you take a look at crime today, Jim, it is out of control. Look at some of our cities. I mean, look at Chicago. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. You might as well be in a war. And we will bring crime as we know it and know it today, unfortunately know it today, we will bring that to an end.
Same thing with ISIS. You said stamping out Islamic terrorism and doing it now, doing it quickly. We are going to win. We're going to win fast. My question is, are you afraid that you're creating expectations that are so great that you won't be able to meet them? I mean, ending Islamic terrorism fast.
And I want the other side to know it's going to be very strong. And I was against the war in Iraq. I was against going in. I said it's going to destabilize the Middle East, and it did. I was right. But then when they got out, Obama got out incorrectly, took everybody and just all of a sudden got out. ISIS was created during this administration. ISIS is a disaster. They chop off heads, they drown people in steel cages. We are going to have to take care of ISIS, and we have to take care of decisively and fast, and we're going to do that. We should have never, ever been in Iraq, but we should have never gotten out of Iraq the way we did. And I also said, and you've heard it for years, you've heard me say it for years, you get it. But I said, take the oil. We never took the oil.
Does fast mean 6 months, a year?
Fast means a rapid period of time. I don't want to define it. I never want to define anything, and I never want to tell you what I want to do. I never want to say to the enemy, this is what we're going to do. When President Obama gets up, he says, we're going to get out of Iraq, we're going to do this. I mean, he puts dates on it. The whole thing is ridiculous. We have an enemy. I don't want to define a lot of things. We're going to get rid of ISIS.
I want to talk to Cuba for a second. Obviously, it's an issue that's down here. Someone with your international business holdings and your investments, you must have over the years looked with an eye towards Cuba and thought to yourself, what an amazing opportunity Cuba would be for investment.
Well, I think at the right time, Cuba would be a good opportunity for investment. I think probably the time's not right. I'm not sure they have that in place right now. They talk in terms of leases as opposed to ownership. There are a lot of things that are wrong with Cuba right now. So I would say probably this isn't the right time. But at some point in the future, I would think that my company, hopefully I'll be doing something entirely different, but perhaps my company would look at it. But it's certainly not high on the list.
Have you ever been to Cuba?
I have not.
Do you think Raul Castro is someone you could deal with?
Who knows? I mean, you never know.
Last question I want to ask you just is on guns. This is, we just had another mass shooting here in Fort Myers the other day, second one in 2 months. You had said after the Orlando shooting that you were going to meet with the NRA and sort of talk about maybe the watch list and keeping people from that. Did you ever actually have that meeting?
We have a meeting scheduled. As you know, they gave me their endorsement. I'm very friendly with the NRA. They're actually very good people, and they love this country very much. And they also love the Second Amendment, as I do. And I'm going to be meeting with the NRA, and we're going to see what we can do. I mean, We have to have the Second Amendment. We need protection. We need protection in our homes. If you don't have that, you don't have protection in our homes. With that being said, I'm going to meet with them primarily having to do with watch lists.
Just on that, just a follow-up to that. Right now, the law prevents the federal government from funding the CDC to do studies on gun violence. Would you like to have the CDC do those studies? Would you like to see that ban lifted? And along that same lines with the ATF, right now the ATF cannot keep central computer databases of gun purchases. Would you like to see your ATF have that ability to have a central database?
We are going to, Jim, be issuing policy probably over the next 4 to 8 weeks, and it'll cover both of those subjects. And I think both of those subjects can be covered actually pretty well, but I'd rather do it through policy and through a policy paper that we'll be releasing over the next 4 to 8 weeks.
And how important is Florida to your election?
Very important. I love Florida.
Is it must win?
That's where we are.
Is it must win?
Well, I think it probably is or possibly is. I can say this, I have tremendous properties in Florida, tremendous employees. They're phenomenal. We have a Hispanic group of employees. We're at Doral right now. These are the greatest people on earth. They work hard. I pay them a lot of money, and they do a great job, and people love it. I think that Florida is going to be very important. And you know how well I did in the primaries. I won in a landslide. That was a massive landslide. And I think we have a very good chance in the general. I'm up 3 points and 7 points. Another poll just came out now that we're up 7 points. And we haven't even started, other than I'm here a lot. It's my second home. I love Florida. I love the people of Florida. And my employees are the greatest people on earth, and you probably see that, but they're the greatest people there are. So I think we're going to do really well in Florida. I have a big stake in Florida.
Mr. Trump, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.